Hello again. Before we go on, there's just time to mention that our title music is country rock polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breur. It's performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, who's kindly given his permission for us to use it. And now, here's Patricia with the first item of sport.
A late goal from Tom Parkinson ensured that Enfield Town began their season in the Ryman Premier Division in disappointing fashion on Saturday, as they were beaten 1-0 at home by Tonbridge Angels. Despite producing a below-par performance, it appears as if the hosts would escape with a draw, which they barely deserved, until, with just 2 minutes left on the clock, Tom Parkinson headed in Charlie Webster's cross to snatch all 3 points for Tonbridge. Enfield Town are still searching for their first point or goal of the Ryman Premier Division season after suffering a 1-0 defeat at Hendon on Monday night. The visitors did produce a much better display than had been the case against Tonbridge Angels 2 days previously, but they fell behind to an Aaron Morgan penalty midway through the first half. Cockfosters made it 6 points out of a possible 6 at the start of the new Spartan Premier Division season, by securing a 2-0 victory at Coney Heath on Tuesday night. Having begun their campaign in a fine style by beating Bedford Town 4-0 at home on Saturday, Cockfosters maintained their 100% record at Coney, courtesy of goals from Courtney Lawrence and Jack Grosvenor.
And here's the latest cricket news. Southgate gave a huge boost to their hopes of remaining in the Premier Division of the Middlesex County Cricket League for another year by securing a crucial 44-run win at home to basement side Indian Gymkhana on Saturday. A shock victory over then leaders Richmond the previous week had seen Southgate climb above bottom 2, and this latest triumph has left them 15 points clear of the relegation zone with 4 matches left. Meanwhile, Enfield were beaten by 7 wickets when they made the trip to Wembley in Division 2. Although Neil Tilley made 73, Enfield could only reach 180 batting first in good conditions, with Tapan Patel taking 4 for 61, and Vinay Shah, unbeaten 52, helped the host to cruise to a 182 for 3 win in reply. Elsewhere, Jim Gatting was in the runs against Winchmore Hill, crushed visiting Kenton by 7 wickets in Division 3. Siran Sivaratnam, 5 for 30, was the bowling star as Kenton were dismissed for 150, batting first. Gatting then showed exactly why he is one of the highest run scorers in the Middlesex League this season by smashing 84 to help Hill make it to 151 for 3. Despite the win, Winchmore Hill remain outsiders in the race for promotion, though as the 3 sides above them in the table were also victorious.
Athletics. The senior men's team at Enfield and Harrogate Athletic Club suffered the bitter disappointment of being relegated from the Premier Division of the British Athletics League after they could only finish 7th when they hosted the final meeting of the season at the Lee Valley Athletics Centre on Saturday. The highlight of a difficult day for the club came in the 3,000-metre steeplechase, where they secured a double triumph as Ben Nagy won the A string and William Mycroft took the B string. Kai Riley-Lord was runner-up in the A-string 110-metre hurdles, while there were third-placed finishes from Tom Pye in the A-string 800 metres, Ben Snaith in the A-string 200 metres, Joshua Bones in the A-string triple jump, and the 4x100-metre relay team of Mark Hansen, Curran Williams, Ramon Smith and Snaith. However, Enfield and Haringey managed to maintain their place in the Premier Division of the United Kingdom's Women's League, despite coming last when the season reached its conclusion in Eton over the weekend. Caroline Parkinson won the B-string pole vault, while Nicola Gilbert was second in the A-string 100 metres. And now here's Katherin with some more news.
And just as a prelude to the next story, I was shocked to learn recently that the air ambulance for London, one of the world's greatest cities, is funded entirely by voluntary contributions. And here's one of the ways in which the money's being raised. An ambitious grandfather and his friend hope to raise £30,000 for another air ambulance in London. Grandfather Jerry Boots, who lives in Harrow, and his friend Brendan Barrett will cycle 1,700 miles in 12 days across Western Ireland. They have already raised more than £6,000 for London Air Ambulance's Your London, Your Helicopter appeal. Mr. Barrett said, "For two complete amateurs, this is a serious challenge. To put it in perspective, the professional cyclists in the Tour de France average 100 miles per day, with rest days, and we will be cycling as much as 75 miles in a single day, not to mention battling West Coast winds and other elements." The duo will leave from County Cork on Monday. The charity hopes to raise £4.4 million and still needs £2.29 million to buy and maintain a second helicopter and extend its daylight flying hours for the next 5 years.
Thousands of women in the borough have been victims of female genital mutilation, FGM, according to figures. Statistics by Enfield Council reveal that up to 3,500 women were affected by the practice, and an estimated 2,800 girls are at risk of it. FGM has been illegal in the UK for 30 years, but in some cultures it is still practiced, and the local authority is calling for the issue to be tackled head-on. Clinics are being set up in the borough's local hospitals, where women can receive medical care and support. Trained health and social care staff meet communities affected by FGM, and awareness has been raised among school staff who can assist any affected pupils and recommend support. Councillor Nineka Kizor, Cabinet Member for Public Health, said, "The City University study confirms our own analysis of the scale of FGM in the borough and reminds us why measures are being put in place to tackle it and provide support to survivors. However, it is a difficult issue to tackle, since it involves cultural traditions and some secrecy because it is illegal. Our information is therefore estimated based on population movements and census records. We need help in detecting it. We therefore welcome the new strengthened law announced last week, introducing FGM protection orders for women and girls at risk. Now it is not only illegal for any girl or woman to be subjected to FGM in this country, but it is also illegal to take them abroad for the purposes of FGM.
A woman and 2 children escaped unharmed after a blaze which ripped through a restaurant threatened to spread to flats above. Nearly 60 firefighters battled for more than 2 hours to bring the fire at the Caribbean Junction in Taplow Road, Palmer's Green, under control on Wednesday morning last week. The mother and her 2 children were able to flee to safety from their flat above the restaurant minutes before the fire brigade arrived on the scene. Station manager Nick Harding said, "The ground, first floor and roof of the building were alight when we arrived, and the roof had collapsed. Crews used an aerial ladder platform to fight the fire from the front of the building, as well as from the back of the restaurant where there is access to the flat. Scaffolding now surrounds the shell of the building at the junction of North Circular Road and Great Cambridge Road, and the cause of the fire, which broke out at 9 a.m, is still being investigated."
2 more people have been charged in connection with the Hatton Garden heist in April. Bren Walters, known as Ben Perkins, 43, of Manor Court, and Terry Robinson, 35, of Stirling Road, Enfield, were both bailed to appear at Westminster Magistrates' Court on Thursday, August the 27th. 9 other people, including Terry Perkins, 67, of Heen Road, Daniel Jones, 58, of Park Avenue, and Hugh Doyle, 48, of Riverside Gardens, all from Enfield, are set to appear in court later this year after being charged with conspiracy to steal. Carl Wood, 58, of Elderbeck Close, Cheshunt, John Collins, 74, of Blestow Walk, Hoxton, William Lincoln, 59, of Wink Green, 76-year-old Brian Reeder of Dartford Road, Dartford, and Paul Reeder, 50, of the same address, were also charged. More than 200 police officers raided homes across Enfield, East London and Kent in May after the raids in April, where an estimated £200 million worth of diamonds and money was taken from the underground vaults. 3 more people, a 45-year-old man, A woman, 59, and a woman, 40, have also been interviewed under caution by investigators.
Care home residents had a meal to remember when a woman who struggles with anxiety organised a dinner party. People who live at Apthorpe Care Centre in New Southgate took part in the fine dining experience run by national activities providers. Betty Bowell, 79, who lives in the home, took a trip to a farm to pick out fresh ingredients and wine, despite struggling with anxiety when leaving the home. She invited guests with handmade invitations and decorated the table with ornaments. The 5-star menu included smoked bacon, king prawns and a neck of lamb in a red wine sauce. Fiona Swinnerton, Leisure and Lifestyle Manager at Apthorpe Care Centre, said, "Our fine dining experience was enjoyed by all who attended, with everybody doing their part to make the event as memorable as possible. Events like our dinner party go a long way towards encouraging social interaction and promoting well-being among older people. We have since compiled a scrapbook for Betty so she can look back fondly at her time hosting the Apthorpe fine dining meal."
Concerns are growing for the welfare of a man with mental health problems who's gone missing from Chase Farm Hospital. Chandrakant Shah, 66, was last seen at the hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield, at 9:45 a.m. on Monday. He suffers from bipolar depression and is described as Asian, 5 foot 2 inches tall and of slim build with receding hair. He is said to walk with a hunch and has several teeth missing. He was last seen wearing a grey T-shirt, dark jogging bottoms and black trainers. Anyone with information on Mr. Shah's whereabouts can call police on 101 or missing people on 116000.
And here's an interesting letter from Don Borman from Chase side of Enfield. He says, "It has now been 90 days since the general election, and other than promoting Caroline Flint and Liz Kendall's bids for the Labour top jobs, I am struggling to work out what exactly Joan Ryan has been doing. She certainly doesn't seem to be spending much time responding to constituents. A number of people have asked Miss Ryan whether she would be willing to publish her expenses claims online, as Nick Dubois used to. Several have asked whether she would be accepting the pay increase being given to MPs. She is simply ignoring these questions. I challenge her to write to this newspaper to set out her responses to these questions." I'm sure she will, Tom.
Another letter, I don't know who this is from. He says, or she says, "As a frequent user of Wellington Road in Bush Hill Park, may I strongly protest at the absurdly lengthy resurfacing work being done in the road. At the time of writing, it's been going for a massive 26 days and is causing detours for cars and buses as well as considerable inconvenience to residents and some churchgoers at the Methodist Church. Why, one asks, did the council approve of this totally unnecessary work, especially in view of the cutbacks in local expenditure and the need to find millions by curtailing other expenditure?"
And another letter for you. "I was pleased to hear Mayor of London Boris Johnson's announcement that the majority of our Metropolitan Police officers on the beat will be getting body-worn cameras within the next year. This is good news for Londoners, not only making our communities safer places to live, but also allowing local people to hold the police to account. I hope that the Met Police will draw up workable rules that tell officers when they need to have that camera switched on, so that residents can still have the confidence to approach their local neighbourhood bobby for a private conversation whenever they want. Lady Doreen Lawrence, whose son Stephen was murdered in a racist attack in 1993, has suggested that those cameras should be switched on during every stop and search to ensure that they are conducted appropriately. Meanwhile, these cameras should result in huge savings in police and court time. If they work well and are not seen as a threat, over time we may be able to roll them out to other frontline workers, such as transport and health workers, whom we rely on to keep London safe and moving." And that's from Syed Kamal, our current MEP for London, and he's also standing for Labour's elected London Mayor at the moment.
I have a letter from a concerned Enfield resident. I don't have her full name. I think her first name is Jane, who is concerned about the trees in Cecil Road. And she writes, "The beautiful avenue of trees in Cecil Road, Enfield Town, were part of Enfield Council's Highways Department maintenance programme. Trees were felled and 70% of the urban canopy was removed. It all came as a big surprise to residents on July the 22nd, watching their gates and gardens get flattened by falling branches. 3 trees were felled in a row, and a very healthy-looking 200-year-old veteran horse chestnut tree at the entrance of the town was chopped down, ruining the beautifully leafy green character of the town conservation area. Any gardener knows brutal cutting back of a tree during midsummer, when the sap is rising, opens the tree to disease and could kill it. This is complete mismanagement and disregard for the welfare of these trees and the habitats of native birds, bats and insects. Next spring, when the bees come looking for pollen, they won't find any here. The wonder of an urban tree canopy counteracts car pollution. A tree can't photosynthesize without leaves. Obviously, someone in the Council Highways Department doesn't understand trees. They are whole ecosystems sustaining life. People are now more informed about their environment and wildlife. I'm not in favour of keeping trees that are in genuine danger to the public, but not being in the right place isn't a good enough reason to fell a veteran tree, part of the inherited character of Enfield. In the conservation areas, trees still have to have planning permission to be removed. The ancient horse chestnut tree in Cecil Road has been respected throughout 100 years of town planning in Enfield, until a couple of weeks ago. I hope this has nothing to do with the proposed cycle and mega busways planned for Enfield Town Centre. I thought this was a period of consultation. I have submitted a formal complaint to Enfield Council. I am awaiting an answer."
Actually, I might be able to give a little... They mentioned this tree felling programme. And the trees that have been actually felled were considered to be diseased. They did a proper survey. So I don't know about the unseasonal cutting back and trimming. Maybe the Enfield Society will pick that up if that's wrong. But the trees that were taken down, that has nothing to do with the cycle scheme. It has to do with the condition of the trees. And that horse chestnut, much loved as it is, it's been known about for some time, I'm afraid. Sad, but there we are.
Thank you for that, Malcolm. A teenager has taken the plunge to raise more than £1,600 for charity. George Connell, 16, took part in an adrenaline-fuelled skydive for Noah's Ark Children's Hospice to mark the 15th anniversary of the Jack Petchey Foundation. The Lee Valley High School pupil said he chose the charity after it cared for the sister of one of his friends who suffered with Batten disease, a degenerative ailment. He said, "I chose to raise money for the Noah's Ark Children's Hospice because they cared for the sister of one of my dear friends at Scouts. She developed Batten disease when she was 4 and sadly passed away last year. The Noah's Ark Hospice helped her and her family during this very sad time." George also raised money by organising a cake sale and car wash for his friends and family. The jump took place at the North London Skydiving Centre at Chatteris Airfield in Cambridge. And Jack Petchey, CBE, said, "Congratulations to the young people on completing the skydive. Each of them should be extremely proud of their fundraising efforts, and I hope they enjoyed the day." Through our programmes and award schemes, the Foundation gives young people opportunities and helps them believe that whatever their background, they can achieve. That's where we get our saying, "If you think you can, you can." And I'm very proud of every young person who has participated.
Okay, now here's a bit of news that by the time you hear this, it's probably gone past. But we thought you might like to know that at Hilly Fields on Sunday the 16th of August in the afternoon from 3 to 5:30, the Friends of Hilly Fields are mounting a music concert in aid of the Nightingale Cancer Support Centre. It's called Music in the Park, and it features the 2 FBS classic rock band And, of course, they'll be using the renovated bandstand in Hillyfields Park. And there's free entry with a suggested donation of £2, and people can bring their picnic, sit and enjoy the music. And there's a free car park at Whitewebb's Golf Course, Beggars Hollow, which is behind the Rose and Crown pub. And refreshments are available, and they're encouraging people to bring their spare change for the bucket collection. So just in case you get the electronic version of this and you hear it in time, you might like to go or let people in your circle of friends know about it. And for more information, you can call 020 8366 9674. Okay.
Almost a third of money spent by the council goes back into local businesses, according to their figures. Enfield Council is looking for more suppliers in the borough in a bid to boost the area's economy. Figures suggest that 28% of money goes into local companies, 3% over the government's target. The council also claims that spending with small and medium businesses is at 45%. Promoting the London living wage to businesses and reducing the carbon footprint are also policies included in the Enfield 2020 vision to make the area a better place to live, work and visit. The announcement comes following the news last month that the authority would be stopping its funding to Enfield Business and Retailers Association by April 2016. In response to the town teams are set to be established across the borough. Councillor Alan Sitkin, Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration and Business Development, said, Enfield Council is determined to do all it can to make people shop locally and work together with us to support local businesses. We do our bit by spending locally when we can and advertise opportunities widely in the borough. These new figures show clearly that Enfield is putting its money where its mouth is.
Well, August is a pretty slow news month, so we've actually run out of things to read from the local papers. But we've come across this article from a website called The Londonist, which is actually a really good website. And it's the article is called How the Tube Lines Got Their Names by a guy called Nick Young. So I hope that they'll forgive us for reading this out to you, and we hope you'll enjoy it. So here we're going to take it in turns to read bits, and here is Katherin.
Much as we like to complain about it, the extent to which we rely on the London Underground became clear when we saw the chaos that ensued when it was closed due to strikes this week. Londoners and visitors marvel at it to the extent that there's a museum dedicated to it, and its logo and map have become design icons depicted on everything from mugs to boxer shorts. It currently consists of 11 lines, which range in size from 1.5 to 52 miles. Some have their own associations. The Central Line is regarded as energetic, the Circle Line adventurous, and the Northern Line intense. But where did their names come from? Some lines are named for a station, or stations located along them. When looked at in closer detail, though, the names of our tube lines, names that are part of the everyday language of London, take in such diverse origins as a builder, a battle, a queen, a 16th century item of clothing, and an extension plan that didn't happen.
Bakerloo Line. Opened in March 1906, the Brown Line was originally called the Baker Street and Waterloo Railway, on the grounds that it connected Baker Street, named after the 18th century builder William Baker, who built the street, with the London and South Western Railway's terminus, which had in turn been named after the famous battle. Within months, a shortened version of the name, Bakerloo, had caught on to the extent that it was quickly adopted as the official name.
The Central Line is the longest tube line opened in 1900 under the name of the Central London Railway. Although back then it only went between Shepherd's Bush and Bank, it was so named because the idea had been to run a deep-level underground railway line, through the London Central on an east-west axis. The London part of the name was dropped in 1937 due to plans to extend the line beyond that boundary of the old country of London.
The Circle Line, named due to it being a closed loop running along the tracks of the Metropolitan, Hammersmith and City and District lines for much of its length. Although it had long been planned that the Met and District lines would between them form a circle around central London, the circle didn't become a line in its own right until 1949, despite the loop being broken in 2009 with an extension to Hammersmith, making it more of a spiral than a circle. The name remains.
The District Line. The Metropolitan District Railway opened in 1868. Originally running between South Kensington and Westminster, the plan was for it to merge with the slightly older Metropolitan Railway, hence the metropolitan part of the name, to create a circle of underground railway lines around central London. This didn't happen, so the new line became known as the District Railway. The word district, by the way, derives from the Latin districtus, meaning area of jurisdiction.
Hammersmith and City. The Pink Line was named due to its linking Hammersmith with the City of London, even though it actually extends out to the East End. The line from Hammersmith to Barking was originally part of the Metropolitan Line, but has had its own separate identity since 1990. The most likely theory for the origins of the name Hammersmith is that it is a combination of the Old English words haemor, hammer, and smith, smith.
The Jubilee Line. Named to commemorate the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977, which is why it's a silver grey colour. However, the line that took over the Stanmore branch of the Bakerloo line and linked it with Charing Cross didn't actually open until 1979. Originally, it was to have been called the Fleet Line, with a proposed extension to the city passing underneath the subterranean River Fleet. In the event, though, the extension, when it came, went south to Waterloo and turned east to go to the Docklands.
The Piccadilly Line. Named after the central London street, the name of which derives from the Piccadille, a large broad lace collar which was fashionable in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. Robert Baker, one of the most successful manufacturers of these, had acquired land in the area on which he built his house, Piccadilly Hall. The Piccadilly Line was opened in December 1906 as the Great Northern Piccadilly and Brompton Railway. It originally ran from Finsbury Park, already a station on the Great Northern Railway, to Hammersmith. From the start, presumably for the sake of convenience, passengers referred to it as the Piccadilly Railway.
The Victoria Line. The first entirely new tube line in half a century, the Victoria Line opened in 1968. There are no prizes for guessing that it is named after Victoria Station, which was in turn named after Queen Victoria. Suggested alternatives during the planning stages had been Woolwich, Walthamstow, Victoria, and Viking, Victoria, King's Cross.
Well, we're going to miss out a couple of lines, but maybe we'll have those another time. And we've reached the end of our programme for this week. Don't forget, your reader's representative, Diane de Jersey, is on 020-8805-6578 if you need any help with the talking newspaper. And please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible so we can send out the next edition. And that will be with you in 1 week's time. Thanks for being with us. From me, Katherin, Ros, Patricia and Jason, goodbye.